Right, and we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome in. As always, you know how I like to start this. If you guys want to throw your state or country up, I always like to see where everybody's listening from. I am going to retweet my live stream and we will get right into it today. Live now. Done and done. I hope everybody is doing good today. Let's see. Hi from Fort Collins, Colorado. I was just up in Fort Collins the other day. Hi from Mexico. Hi from the Netherlands. Hi from Hungary, Sweden. Awesome, guys. Pakistan, Luhansk. Are you really in the Luhansk? Denmark in the house. We got 3-year-olds in chat. We always have 3-year-olds in chat, Bubba. That's what's always going on. Stop, Scott, stop banning on Telegram. Don't be lame. Hey, listen, if you guys don't know, I have absolutely nothing to do with that chat. If you get banned, it could be from our bot for certain language usage. If you get banned by one of my moderators, I have a very lenient policy of returning people after they've been banned. Just come and talk to me and I will likely return you. Sorry if you've been banned. I don't have anything to do with that chat. Sometimes I go in there and talk. That's about as much as I have to do with it. Let's see. Puerto Rico, Alabama, Poland, Slovenia, UK, Belgrade, Italy, Algiers, Moscow, Miami, Los Angeles, Portugal. Aren't we all, brother? Aren't we all? Would you ever get a mod for YouTube? Yeah, if you guys want to be my mod for the YouTube chat, just send me a DM and we can discuss that if somebody is interested in doing that for sure. Okay, I think we have enough people in here. Yeah, we're getting up close to around 600 now. So I will go ahead and start. Welcome in. This is Calibrated Live, episode 104. We have some pretty serious Ukraine updates to talk about. We have a couple of breakthroughs. A couple of the pockets that I've been talking about have finally closed. And in general, it does seem like the Ukrainians are actually now taking the proper steps to remove themselves from areas that are no longer advantageous for the Ukrainian armed forces. I talked about that in my last live stream, that I'm expecting some retreats here and there, and that's sort of what is starting to happen. So we're going to get into that for sure today. We have a little bit to talk with the Middle East, not a ton. And then I think I'm going to do more of a Q&A today, a longer Q&A. So if you guys have questions, if you want them answered, absolutely. Remember, you can always ask those through super chats. I get to all of those live on stream. If you have questions, you can just throw them up in chat. I might get to them, I might not. But we will be doing a little bit of a Q&A today, a little bit longer than normal, I think, because I don't have a ton to talk about. But I did need to do this live stream. So let's go ahead and get right into the map. If you guys want to find more of my work, or if you want constant updates on the conflicts that I cover, the geopolitics that I go over, or just, updates to when my live streams happen, when videos get posted, so on and so forth, you can go to the link in the the links in the description of this YouTube video. You will find my Telegram, my Twitter, and my Patreon. You can follow all of those for free and gain access to all that content. If you would like to support me financially, you can do so through super chats in this YouTube video. That helps a ton. Or you can go over and join my Patreon and support me there. Thank you guys so much for all of you who support me. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, guys. We are getting so close to 30,000 subscribers, and that is my goal by the end of October, all right? Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Over to the old map, shall we? The ye old classic. Okay, so not a significant number of updates in areas where we have not already been discussing. Kursk has not seen significant movement. There has been some capture I think this Melaya Lokana location right here, that's obviously wrong. I mispronounced that, but I believe that it has been captured. But again, this Kursk map is more just a visual representation. If big things happen here, I will update it. But I'm so not confident with where any of these lines actually are and where actual control boundaries exist that for me, the Kursk salient, especially now that it has been bogged down and is completely useless for the either side, really, in terms of, gaining anything on the battlefield, it doesn't really matter anymore to me. So I will update it as we get closer to the end of it. But in terms of like little 100, 200, 300 meter updates, I'm not going to be covering it super in depth. Great. Over here to Vovchansk, we have the Kharkov incursion. We have no changes. Along the Oskol, there are rumors that there have been some movement by the Russian armed forces in this area. However, we have not got a geolocation. Same goes for the south of Pishane, where we also have rumors that the Russian armed forces have expanded their zone of control here. Okay, moving down to the actual main bulk of today's updates, guys. The title, as you can see, Seversk under siege. You can really begin to see the degradation of the Ukrainian armed forces overall, right? I made a tweet about 6 days ago, and I can bring it up if you guys want. But basically, what it says is that Siversk is a microcosm. It is a case study for the overall general health of the AFU, of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. We haven't seen any movement in this area for 2 years. The Russians have attempted multiple times to progress in this front without success. The Ukrainians have had a very adept command in this area. The units defending Bilohorivka, for example, and Spirne, down here to the south, right here, Spirne, they held these places for a titanic amount of time, considering what they were working with in terms of structure, almost none. They did have elevation advantage, but Bilohorivka and Spirne held for a very, 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 very long time. And the Ukrainians did an excellent job in this region of keeping the Russians from advancing. If you remember previously, before the Kharkov offensive happened, after the fall of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, the Russian armed forces made an advance much similar to this one that we're seeing here along the Seversky Donetsk canal right here. And there were some pages back then, 2022, long time ago, that had talked about the Russian armed forces actually entering Seversk. On the back of that, there was the Kharkov offensive and the offensive in this direction of Seversk into the Shibiansky forestry right here and towards Bilohorivka, where the Russians were forced back. As we will take a look at this, the territory here is kind of difficult to manage, at least at the time of the conflict when the Ukrainian armed forces had an excess of artillery ammunition and manpower to actually fight. But as you can see, the Russian armed forces have made a significant advance along the river, along these roads. They have captured the entire village of Hihorivka, as well as entered the village of Serbianka here. So both of these villages are now, one is captured, one is contested, and this is a major advance. We are talking somewhere in the ballpark of 6 miles, so right around 10 kilometers, guys, right around 10 kilometers. And we don't know if this is the actual extent of the advances. We've just got very recent geolocations from this area here and from this area over here. So this is still a very much developing situation. I am going to take us over to the topographical map, but with these two advances, more than likely, the Ukrainian forces on the high ground in between these two advances have been removed, and the Ukrainian presence in Bilohorivka has likely also been taken care of. What we could very well see here in the near future is the complete liberation of the Luhansk People's Republic by the Russian armed forces. Again, there are only a certain small number of areas. You can see right here, Luhansk right here. The Zhibyansky forestry right here is also Luhansk. And then getting up here, this area is the last remaining bit of the Luhansk uh, oblast that has not been captured. So the Russians control something like 99% of the oblast, and very shortly we will probably see the full liberation of the territory of the Luhansk People's Republic. All right, just to focus on this area, however, the Russian forces have also moved in, and remember I had this in purple for a long time, have captured Verkhonomanyanske. This village is, again, basically nothing, but there's very little structure in this area in general, so any high ground, any structure is going to be of vital importance to the defense of Seversk, and as you can see, the Russian armed forces are now within 5 kilometers of Siversk itself, as well as being within. Let me see here. The goal should not be to just to take Siversk, but to come back around behind it. Really, what the Russians want to do is approach Donivka here, Dranivka, and cut off the supply that runs back here through Platonivka along this highway. Does this highway actually have a number designation? No. But this highway that runs from Sloviansk down into Seversk is the last remaining supply line. This needs to be the objective. So what I do believe, and I'm going to add this into my miscellaneous folder, guys, if you go to my map and you look at miscellaneous, that's just stuff that I use for predictions. You know, if there's important lines, that's what I use to show those. So if you click on that, you will see some of my predictions that are being made. And I do not update them. So I think the Russian goal will be to do something like this, bypassing Seversk, using the river as a natural line of defense, moving into Platonivka, and then something like this. And I know it looks kind of stupid. It looks like it wouldn't work. But remember, this entire line is defended by a river that's basically impossible to cross at almost every point. And the Ukrainian presence in this forest, I've been thinking this for a very long time, that the actual presence in this area has diminished significantly, just because there's literally no point in defending this anymore. Somebody says they're from Idaho. Somebody just got into the stream, so if you make it to 12 minutes and 43 seconds, you will see your comment. Welcome to the stream, my good man. I'm going to, oops, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to turn this into a color that we can all see here. Not blue, let's go purple. That's kind of the color I've been using for my predictions. Something like this. This should be the goal. Again, Seversk is not going to be an incredibly difficult area to defend. However, I'm going to take us over to my topographical map right now, and we will look at how the Battle of Seversk may or may not play out. Okay, so here's Seversk. Here is the villages that have been captured. Here's Hihorivka, or Hihorivka. Here's the other village that starts with an S. I can't remember. And here's the village that starts with a V. All of these have Russian presence in them now, but you can see how the Russians kind of did something that they don't normally do, and that is follow the low ground. Something that we don't usually see from the Russians in this exact instance, but you can see that the Russians have pushed out along this low ground, along the river, using the river as a defensive barrier, and now have basically surrounded this high ground, including all positions that the Ukrainian armed forces hold in Bilohorivka. This is now a fire bag, right? So if there are Ukrainian units still holding the line in Bilohorivka, they are going to have to leave between two sandwiched, two pieces of bread that is the Russian armed forces. That is this high ground. We have seen the Russians have breached the high ground. They are up on this portion right now. So my guess is that this area is basically, devoid of Ukrainian resistance at this point, considering how dramatically the situation has progressed. Back over to the map. But yeah, so this is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting consistent pressure from the, well, what I'm expecting is the front to level out along this line right here. And then you're going to begin to see assault operations towards Seversk itself. And there is high ground back here behind Seversk. So really, it might be difficult to directly frontal approach the town. But the town does have a major rail line that runs right through the middle, which does divide the town in two. So we may see the Ukrainians evacuate from this half of the town into the western half and then utilizing the high ground back here to fight the Russians back. Let's see. I'm going to come over to the topographical map real quick again, just so I can show you the backside of Seversk, and you can kind of see the more tactical situation. So here you can see there are some heights here. I think the Russians want to continue along this river, capturing this village, and then moving down here. And once they have moved down into this area, you know, the goal should be to cut the highway that comes from Slavyansk into Seversk, then nullifying this high ground. But as you can see, the Russians are going to have all of the high ground looking directly down into Seversk. Holding the city itself is going to be incredibly difficult. I think what is going to happen is you're going to see sort of this gray zone battle where the Ukrainians are forced to retreat out of the low ground, hold the hills to the west, and once the Russians are into the urban areas, they're going to progress very quickly through Seversk. I've said it for quite a while now. If Seversk falls, the situation for the Ukrainian armed forces gets incredibly dire. If we go back and look at the map, let's see. If we go back and look at the map over here, you will see that if Seversk falls, and if this forestry falls right here, the Russians are going to very quickly be back inside of Liman, because this is not, there's not a ton to defend here. The Russians had to back up basically to the Zhibyets River when they were pushed out of Liman. Same thing's going to go happen to the Ukrainians when they're pushed out of Zorichny. When they're pushed out of Zorichny here, they will have to retreat to Liman. And then, guys, remember, on the backside of Liman is Izum, right? And Izum is Pokrovsk of the north, right? Has all the highways that go into it. It is a major hub. It connects to the backside of Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. It is one of the major logistics centers to this urban conglomerate here. Same goes for Pokrovsk down to the south. The Russians are creating a massive pincer now around the urban conglomerate here in the center of Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Druskivka, and Konstantinivka. So we could be on the verge of a major strategic defeat for the Ukrainian armed forces if things continue to progress with the speed and intensity that they currently are. Guys, this is the snowball. This is the collapse. We are in day, I think, something like 42 or 43 of the collapse since I've started calculating it. In that time, the Ukrainians have lost a major chunk of territory on the road to Pokrovsk and Minhorod right here. They have lost all of this, you know, everything south of Novohordivka right here. All of this has been captured in the last 40 days. This entire pocket here outside of Donetsk has been captured over the last 40 days. Ugledar has been captured over the last 40 days, along with the, you know, the entire highway here, which is now in use by the Russian armed forces. Guys, we are witnessing the collapse. That's what this is. This right here should not be happening for the Ukrainians. This is what a collapse looks like. Okay. It's going to, again, snowball. The situation is not getting better. There is no improvements coming out. You know, there is no more promise of aid. Morale is taking a massive hit. Over the next 3 months, you guys are going to see the complete degradation of the Ukrainian armed forces. I don't necessarily know if the whole Donbass is going to fall in that time, but the fights are going to become weaker, more pathetic from the Ukrainians, and we're just going to see this slow grind into absolute combat ineffectiveness. And that's really what we are already beginning to reach. We are already reaching this point. Situation is very, very bad. Let me go ahead and put this down into my miscellaneous folder. Okay. Okay. We will take these away for now. All right, moving down to Toretsk. As I had discussed multiple times in previous live streams, I had said that this pocket right here was probably most likely already captured by the Russians. We got confirmation of that. We got a geolocation of Russian forces in these houses right in this area, confirming that this entire pocket, while not being mapped, was likely under Russian control for a good amount of that time. And I had said that this advance right here made absolutely no sense if this pocket was still viable for the Ukrainians, right? It's way too exposed. I had said that there was probably no Ukrainians, at least in this sector, with this, creek barrier right here. But there may have been Ukrainians in this area. Turns out that there are no Ukrainians in that area. A massive gain for the Russians inside of Toretsk. You're talking 3 square kilometers right there inside of a city. That is massive. The Russians now control a majority of the city, compared to the Ukrainians. So the Russians probably control something like 35%. I would say probably 40% of the city is now in the gray zone. This chunk up here, all the way over here, this is in the gray zone. And the Ukrainians probably control less than 30% back here, safely, stably control less than 30%. We also have reports that and geolocations that the Russian armed forces have entered the industrial mining facility here in the town. And as I have described multiple times over and over and over and over again, guys, this is the key to Toretsk. If this industrial facility falls, if those Terrakons, those industrial hills right there fall, we will see the Ukrainians forced to retreat from not only the locality of Toretsk, but also the side towns of Kremysky right here, which is basically a part of Toretsk, and then these 2 settlements along the low ground right here of Petrivka and Sherbivnika. Sure. These names of these towns are just tragic. But yeah, so again, I've only gone over 2 small updates, right? I mean, they're big updates, but it's 2 small updates, right? If we go and look at these updates, critical. This is a critical situation for the AFU. This is no bueno. No, not good. This is a fire that needs to be put out, or it's going to become a major 5-alarm fire that's going to affect the entire defense line for the Ukrainian armed forces, right? This is going to undo work up in the Oskol bridgehead. This is going to open up the door for the Russians to reach Izum. This is bad. This is very, very, very bad. And something needs to be done. But how can something be done when the Ukrainians are also dealing with a massive urban battle in Toretsk, where the Ukrainians are fighting tooth and nail for every inch? How are you supposed to? Where are you going to take the men from? This is attrition warfare, everybody. This is what the last 2 years have been leading up to. You are now seeing the grind. All of the meat grinders that we talked about, all of the encirclements, all of the stupid salients that Ukraine loves to sit in and loves to feed manpower into because retreating is not an option. This is the consequences of those actions. This is the consequences of the Russians choosing an attrition war over, a maneuver war. And now you are going to see the maneuver come out of the situation. So Seversk is an issue. Toretsk is an issue. Let me remind you that the Kursk operation is the primary focus of the Ukrainian armed forces still. So Kursk is an issue, an ongoing open issue. The Russians are still fighting heavily in the Kharkov region. Kharkov is an issue. The Oskol River region is almost about to be captured. I mean, this is getting close to where the Ukrainians are going to need to pull out of this, at least this northern salient. The southern salient will hold for a little bit longer, but the Oskol River region is a big issue. We come down here and we can see that the Ukrainians are still dealing with a partial encirclement of Seledove. They are very, very close to being cut off 3 kilometers away. The Russians are 3 kilometers of open fields and a road away from cutting off most of the supply coming into Seledove. Supply has likely been cut from the south. Seladove isn't an encirclement, and again, you're talking about a meat grinder where the Ukrainians have no where they have no positions to fall back on, right? This is it. There's nothing back here. If they lose Seladove, they're going to lose a big chunk of the southern Donetsk front, right? They cannot lose Seladove, but they're going to because they don't have the means. They have to choose somewhere to lose. For a long time, I've been saying that the Oskol River region up here to the north is the area that the Ukrainians need to retreat from, right? This is the best spot to retreat because this is accomplishing nothing for them. They can retreat behind the river, hold the Russians at the river line, and use all of the manpower that is committed in this entire section right here to defend this little line from Liman to Izum. Defend this little line, right? Back out. Try to defend Seversk as best you can, but the Ukrainians aren't going to back out. So there are solutions to the current problems that the Ukrainian armed forces are facing. However, the political willpower to accomplish those tasks is non-existent. All right, moving down into the Hrinki pocket. Again, another area that I said, guys, you got to watch this very close. I talked about how the encirclement is already threatening this entire pocket. And I had said multiple times, just like that pocket up in Toretsk, that the pocket over the Vovicha River right here was likely already vacated of Ukrainian troops. Right again, the pocket has been vacated of Ukrainian troops, and it just made logical sense, right? Hold the line on the Vovicha River. It's hard to cross, and the depth of this pocket, the depth of your logistics is starting to get very unruly, right? If you're trying to hold that pocket that just collapsed, you're at 13, 14 kilometers of depth into the salient. That's not where you want to be. This is much less troublesome, 7, 8 kilometers in, where you have more stable logistics lines and an urban area that you can hide in. That's much more significant. So we expected this. Now what you need to expect is the Russians to push very, very hard in this area, closing this pocket and forcing a massive Ukrainian retreat. Guys, we are on the precipice of, like I said, a major strategic defeat for the Ukrainian armed forces in eastern Ukraine. I'm not trying to over exaggerate. I for a long time I said, guys, don't expect anything, just expect a grind. That's not the case anymore. We are not in an attrition war anymore. That's done. I mean, the Russians are still going to attrit the Ukrainians, but we will never see a meat grinder again. That is not what you are going to see from this war. You're going to see a lot more encirclements, a lot more maneuvering, a lot bigger, quicker advances like we've seen. I mean, Jesus, could you guys imagine during the Battle of Bakhmut if something like this would have occurred? That's wild. 10 kilometers, 10 square kilometers for the Russian armed forces to gain in one update is unbelievable. And this did just come out like today. This is one update. Let's go up here. So that's 10 kilometers. Up here, we're talking about a 3 square kilometer gain inside of Toretsk, another massive chunk. And we're coming up here to the Siversk salient where we are talking about this entire area likely, but we'll just go off of 2.6. So let's just say 5 kilometers and 8 kilometers here, right? 9 kilometers. So another, what are we talking? 40 square kilometers have been captured by the Russians today or within the last 48 hours. That's wild. That's wild. This is a collapse. If you continue at this rate, the Donbass will be lost like that. If you continue at this rate, you will not have defensive lines to hide behind. This is unsustainable. This is not okay for the Ukrainian armed forces. And I'm letting you guys know. I made a post yesterday. I actually want to go over and show you guys that post because it's exactly what I'm talking about right here, and it kind of exemplifies what I'm saying to a T. Yeah, right here. So let me be. I'll pause this. Let me be your proverbial canary in the coal mine. Ukraine is very close to losing control over Toretsk, is experiencing overwhelming pressure in the Seversk salient, is in a near encirclement around Hrinki, and has a collapsing Oskol bridgehead on its hands. I messed up here, by the way. It was 3 in the morning when I typed this. These mounting issues, and then I said, no, they're battlefield issues, but I forgot to delete this one. Battlefield issues, compounded by the complete drop in support, horribly low morale, and strengthening Russian military, are setting up the preconditions for a massive strategic defeat of the AFU in eastern Ukraine. The snowball is rolling down the hill, growing in size, and gaining momentum. And as you can see from the pictures, we have Toretsk, the salient here in Seversk, the pocket around Khinki, and the Oskol River region. So that's where, I just want to give you guys a heads up about what's going to happen. If you were to bet right now on what's going to happen in the Ukrainian war, just listen to what I'm saying, because it is coming. And this is not me just trying to like brag and saying that I'm right. All of the warning signs are here, guys. The West is completely dropping Ukraine, like entirely. It's actually very sad. We knew it was going to come. I had been saying it the entire time. Ukraine is going to end up like South Vietnam, like the Kurds, like any group that the U.S. has ever supported out, or any proxy that the U.S. has supported. And Israel is not a proxy. Israel is an ally. Israel is a 51st state. Israel is not a proxy. Ukraine is a proxy. South Vietnam was a proxy. The Free Syrian Army were proxies. Those are the groups that you should look to see what is going to happen to Ukraine. Oh, and also the ANA. Don't forget Afghanistan. Yeah, there we go. Look, somebody made sure to mention it. Yeah, the ANA in Afghanistan is definitely a most recent example under this exact same administration of what is going to happen to Ukraine. It is our pattern. It is our modum operandi. It is our policy. It is how we are going to continue doing things forever. And you should really not expect any changes. Americans don't change. We don't. We are the same. Some of our underlying less important ideas will change, but the dogma that we have will never change. And if you don't get used to that, you're never going to understand why we're doing what we're doing. All right, guys, if you have some questions you want to go ahead and get some questions in. I have one more map update that I want to talk about here. It's a little one, but it's sort of important. Moving down here, no changes around Ugledar, although we have had reports of some pushes. Oh, we do have a little update. I didn't see this one. The Russian armed forces have pushed into Antonivka here. I had talked about they had likely already entered the village. They have. And guys, remember that this is the pocket right here that the Ukrainians should retreat behind. They should just give up this locality. They might already have this entire area. It could be gray zone, and just focus on defending this fortified area behind the river and keeping the Russians out of Antonivka and crossing right here for as long as humanly possible. Okay. The last update is down here. Remember, we had reports that the Russians had crossed this dried delta, river delta right here, off of the Novokhovka reservoir. That has been expanded. Again, it's likely dried, so this is not a water barrier. Less impressive, I would say, visually, that the Russians captured this. If you're thinking about it, it's not like, oh wow, they crossed this territory. What a accomplishment. How are they going to keep this supplied? No, this is dry. This is all dry right here. So this is just land. They can just walk across this. It's dry from like this whole area right here is dry. You can see where the river is. You can see where the river runs in. That's pretty much the only part that is still around. Actually, I can just zoom out. There you go. You can see how dry it is. But it is completely flat and open and horrible terrain to try to hold. So yeah, that if you ask why aren't the Russians or the Ukrainians moving into this area, that's why. Because it was just the bed of a reservoir, and now it's just sand. Like it's probably mostly just sand in this area. All right. I do wonder if after the war this is ever going to be turned back into a reservoir again. It'd be interesting to see. All right, guys, that's all the updates I have today. Like I said, go ahead and get those questions in. If you have super chat questions or super chats, those are, like I said, those are always the ones that get answered first. And I like those a little bit more, not because of the money aspect. I wish that there was a way that you guys could do those. Just because I like to see the questions. I like to see them, see them, see them. But let's go ahead and go over to some of these articles that I'm going to talk about real fast, and then we will move into the next topic. Okay. Hold up. Hold up. I don't know where my water is. Can you guys watch my stream for me, okay? Watch it. Watch it. Watch it for like 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Did anything happen? I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Did anything happen? Did anything happen while I was gone? Sorry, you guys had to look at my non-ad blocked articles that I'm going to read you. Deal with it. All right. Zelensky, what's going on here? I feel like every single time I read his name, it changes. Can we keep one spelling of his name, please? They just switch the E's and the I's and the everything. What is happening? Please. Okay. Zelensky awaits new summit date after Biden postpones Germany trip. This is going to be a reoccurring aspect now of the relationship between the United States and Ukraine. Anytime there's going to be an excuse to get out of giving Ukraine money, giving them time and attention, the U.S. is going to take it. I actually appreciate what Biden is doing here, at least what the theater of what he's doing is, saying Ukraine can wait. I have to deal with this hurricane stuff, this, that, and the other. Unfortunately, we all know that Biden isn't doing anything for Ukraine, for victims of hurricanes, for anything. He's probably on a beach somewhere right now, just chillaxing. So when you say, I'm not going to go to Germany because I have something else going on, that's not true. If it was important, if Ukraine was winning, if Ukraine needed something and the U.S. was setting it up, they would be at this Ramstein meeting in Germany. They are not. It is being postponed, which is horrible news for Zelensky, as this is where Zelensky was supposed to give his peace formula, bullcrap, whatever. So I'm just going to read some of this. Berlin, October 9th. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said on Wednesday that he expected a new date for a summit of key allies to be agreed soon following the postponement of a planned gathering in Ramstein, Germany, because U.S. President Joe Biden was unable to join. He was unable to join. Hey, send a proxy. They're just as good. The White House said Biden needed to oversee preparations for Hurricane Milton. Sure he did. And relief efforts after another hurricane last month killed more than 200 people. They're not doing anything. We understand that a new schedule may be prepared in the near future, Zelensky told a briefing in the Croatian city of Dubrovnik. That's a finger crossed right there that maybe we're going to get another date. The Ramstein group of Ukraine's arms donors had been set to convene for its highest level meeting ever on the sidelines of Biden's October 10th, 13th state visit to Germany, which would have been the first U.S. state visit in nearly 40 years, which is crazy. Which would have been the first U.S. state visit in nearly 40 years. That's crazy. The October 12th, 2024 event is postponed, the U.S. Public Affairs Office at Ramstein Air Base said in an email to journalists. Announcements about future Ukraine Defense Contract Group meeting will be forthcoming. So this is what it's going to start to look like. Oh, we can't do it because of this. Oh, we can't do it because of that. Oh, we're just not going to schedule it right now. This is what we talked about. This is Ukraine becoming the butt of the joke, the heel of the situation. And it's only going to get worse. Europe is going to be dealing with Ukraine, and Ukraine is going to be dealing with their own situation very, very soon. It's extremely unfortunate. but some of us tried to warn everybody exactly what was going to happen, right? I've been saying it for years on this podcast in front of you guys that Ukraine would end up the same exact way as every other useless proxy. And every single pro Ukrainian account shouted at me, called me a Russian propagandist, said I was on my knees for Putin, all that good stuff, right? And yet, at the end of the day, the US is the one turning their backs on Ukraine. They made the promise, and we are failing. We are failing Ukraine. Ukraine is screwed anyway, but we failed them from the start. We failed them when we made them fight longer. We failed them by making promises that we know we weren't going to be able to keep. We failed. The United States failed. That's it. And it's only going to get worse because we don't accept failure. We don't admit defeat. We are going to string this out and try to find some fake cope victory and then wipe our hands of it and move on to the next thing. Probably a war with Iran. All right, one more article and then I will get to some questions, everybody. I saw this and I thought it was stupid. North Korean troops now fighting for Russia and Ukraine, Seoul says. Okay, I don't... You'd think that this would come from like Washington or something, but Kim Jong-un, which is funny that his adversary to the north is Kim Jong-un, said that it was highly likely that 6 North Korean officers were killed in a Ukrainian missile strike. What are we thinking, boys? Do we think this is a trust me bro situation, or do we think that this is a legitimate thing that has happened? First off, is Ukraine even firing missiles anymore? When was the last time we saw a missile fired? Ever recently? Because I can't specifically remember. And now they're saying that 6 high-level North Korean officers were killed. I mean, this is just ridiculous. North Korea is now sending troops to fight and die in Ukraine alongside Russian soldiers. This is for boomers. This right here is, and if you read that and your initial thought isn't, why? Why are they doing that? Ukraine's not, I mean, Russia's not losing. They have a manpower advantage. Why would they need North Korean involvement? Now, you could say that there are some advisors there that are picking up some tips and stuff. I don't know. But I don't think that's really necessary for them. They can learn a lot just from viewing it from much, further removed. And this is according to Seoul's defense minister. So take it with it. Obviously, they're going to say anything bad about North Korea anytime. Kim told South Korean politicians on Tuesday it was highly likely 6 North Korean officers were killed in a Ukrainian missile strike on Donetsk last week. We assessed that the occurrence of casualties among North Korean officers and soldiers in Ukraine is highly likely considering various circumstances, Kim said, adding that they expect Pyongyang to send more soldiers to Russia in the near future. Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. That's bullcrap. That's propaganda right there. That is the axis of evil propaganda. I'm still waiting for Iranian missiles. I haven't seen any Iranian missiles being used by the Russians. Those were they levied sanctions against Russia and Iran for those missiles that nobody has seen. We're just making up stuff to create enemies. North Korea, China, Iran, Russia, the axis of evil. And it's just so sloppy and so childish. And if you buy it, you really should reassess how you are looking at this conflict and just reassess your logical process altogether, because this is ridiculous. It's just, you're just grouping, you're just generalizing and grouping to create an enemy. That's what it is. It's just like the Red Scare. Everybody's red. It's all scary, scary, scary. It's the same exact thing. And if you fall for it with the amount of information access you have as a human being right now, that's on you. There's literally nobody to blame but yourself. All right. agreed, Scott. The North Korean casualty article is simply more manufacturing consent. Yep, it's exactly what it is. We do it all the time. Question. How many gypsies are still in Ukraine? My granddad grew up there and complained about them. Is there enough to form a battalion? Okay, first off, a couple questions. You should really, when you type that out, you should have been like, why was my dad hating on gypsies in Ukraine? Or I'm sorry, your granddad. That's a very funny thing to say. I have no idea how many gypsies are in Ukraine at this point. I don't think anybody knows how many people are in Ukraine, let alone specific ethnic groups. There's definitely some. The region is has them. So, but I mean, this is a very suggestive thing to ask. Yeah. Calibrated question. Will there be consequences for Slavyansk if if Seversk falls? Yes, I talked about it. I covered it extensively. Yeah, if Seversk is lost, if this forestry is lost, really, there's no reason to hold this forestry if Seversk is lost, right? It's going to be very, very difficult to hold it. There's not a lot of roads. If this is lost, it is going to just rip this entire front open, and you will be looking very quickly at the beginning of the Battle of Slavyansk. Not necessarily in the heart of it, but I would consider like Slavyansk is this huge stretched out area, right? It's not just the city. So if you come here, you can see that it's pretty spread out, and really even these like these Rahadrok, Donetsk, Donetske, Mayaki up here. It's all sort of Slavyansk, right? It's what I consider like the larger urban conglomerate. Same way Pokrovsk and Minhorod are in the same grouping. The battle for this locality would begin very, very quickly if Seversk and the forestry were lost. So yes, it is going to have a heavy, heavy impact on the overall situation. Question. You said you had some small news on Lebanon and Israel. Oh, yeah. So it does appear that the decision on what the targets are going to be for the Israeli response have been made. Biden had a 50-minute phone call with Netanyahu, where I imagine everything was agreed upon. We will likely see it within the next 24 to 48 hours, if I had to guess. I don't think the Israelis are going to waste any time with this situation. The primary target is said to be military infrastructure. I don't know what that means exactly. What I assume it means is that Iranian boats are going to get hit, and potentially Iranian military bases are going to be struck. I don't really know what purpose this is going to serve. I don't, the issue for Israel is striking, removing the capability for the Iranian regime to strike Israel with ballistic missiles, right? To do that, you have to target the mountain tunnel complexes, which are dug hundreds of meters into the sides of mountains, right? Israel does not have anything capable of doing significant damage to these fortified structures. So I don't really know what their goal is unless they're going to launch tactical nukes at these mountain complexes. If they strike bases and boats, it might not be enough to trigger an Iranian response. We'll have to see. If it isn't enough to trigger an Iranian response, it will likely be what we would call a nothing burger, like the last Israeli response that achieved nothing. Except their propaganda made it seem like they did some spectacular-ish, but that didn't happen. So, at least as far as we can see, Israel is in a very difficult position. They are staring down the barrel of a operation in southern Lebanon that has been going on for 2 weeks and has seen no significant positive results at all. They've crossed a couple hundred meters here and there and planted some flags, but really nothing has been achieved. They are sustaining casualties. The situation is difficult on that southern front, and the deeper they go, the worse it's going to get, right? Israel knows this. Israel knew this from 2006, right? Hezbollah was weaker in 2006 than they are now. They were able to hold then. They're going to be able to hold now. Israel is on the clock. This is what I say. Israel is always trying to make themselves seem like they are in a significant position of authority and power in the region, right? If they don't have that, they lose a lot of what they protect themselves with, right? If they lose deterrence, they're not stronger than other countries in the region economically, demographically. They do have a really good air force, right? They can bomb whoever they want. That is part of their deterrence. Iran has shown their capabilities to not only destroy their assets that are used for strikes and the majority of their military, which is like their F-35s and F-16s and F-15s, those can be hit now, right? They've established that these air bases can be targeted and likely taken out of action if a considerable attack is committed on any of them at all, right? And that cannot stand for Israel. So Israel has to do something dramatic to reestablish themselves. The question is, are they going to cross the threshold where Iran feels like they have to respond? If that is the case, we are going to see a spiraling, escalating situation in the Middle East that will lead to a regional war. I think this is what is going to happen. The U.S. seems like they're on board for it, and they're already talking like we're going to see a number of tit-for-tat exchanges between Iran and Israel. I'm actually going to go over to my Twitter again because I wanted to show you guys a tweet or a comment, a post by one of the Toretsk, and he posted a Biden quote from Axios. New Biden, after his call with Netanyahu, says that the U.S. fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against Iran and its proxies. So, not only its proxies in the region, but directly striking Iran. First clue, the Israelis are going to directly strike Iran. Not only that, but the U.S. was working for a ceasefire, right? Were they not? Was that not the goal? Was that not the end? I thought that's what they said. I thought Biden said something about a ceasefire. I thought that everybody was talking about we can achieve peace, let's not escalate this, that, and the other, and then gets off of a 45-minute phone call with Bibi and says, yeah, we support whatever they're about to do, which means that they've agreed that Israel has got the green light from the United States for whatever they have planned, and that this goes directly in line with U.S. foreign policy. Remember when I had people arguing with me about, the whole, does the tail shake the dog or the dog shake the tail sort of thing? And people were like, no, Israel is controlling the U.S. Israel does whatever they want. No, it is like if you had a little twin on your back right here, a little twin, and he would talk to you and he says, let me bomb everybody. And you go, yeah, you can go ahead and do that because I want you to be like that in this region. I want you to dominate and control this region through force. That's what Israel is. If we wanted them to stop, we would stop delivering bombs. If we wanted to stop, we wouldn't make statements like, oh yeah, no, we're really happy that you killed the general secretary of Hezbollah after we were just talking about a ceasefire and you're at the United Nations Security Council. Yeah, no, we want escalation to go down, but we fully support whatever Israel's about to do in an escalatory manner. We are liars. We are lying to your face, and we are going to continue to lie because everybody around the world seems to be dumb as shit and trust us. We get away with it. We are the best manipulators in terms of foreign policy on the planet. And we pretend like Israel is doing their own thing and, oh, it's horrible and we shouldn't be bombing people and this, that, and the other. But we fund them, we fuel them, we arm them, and we say, go for it. There is no excuse anymore, guys. If you hold that position that somehow Washington and Israel are not on the exact same page all the time, you are a moron. End of story. All right, I'm done. I am done with all of my chit chat. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and get your questions in. Let's see. I heard that the advance in or geolocated Russian flag was just put down by a drone and there's no actual Russian presence. No, that's not true. No, there is Russian presence there. The Russians don't drop flags from drones. I don't know if I've ever seen that. That has been a strictly Ukrainian thing to do. In fact, they will go and blow up Russian flags with FPV drones because they're salty about it. A more PC question: on which borders, realistically, do you think this war will be on? I don't think it's really going to be a war in that sense. I think you may see some action in Syrian Golan Heights. You will definitely see the war play out kinetically, most significantly on the ground, at least in southern Lebanon. And because Israel doesn't have the means to, force a war anywhere else. The only way you're going to see a war expand outside of, missile strikes. Like, I think a majority of this conflict between Israel and Iran is just going to be deep strikes, just annihilating each other's infrastructure, both military and civilian, to accomplish a victory. Because Iran doesn't have the means to make it to Israel, and Israel doesn't have the means to make it to Iran. The only way that happens is if the U.S. gets involved and we put boots on the ground, which, by the way, if the U.S. gets drugged back into the Middle East after 25 years of wars and trying to evacuate it, that would be peak. That would be the absolute end of the U.S. empire. That would be our Suez Canal moment right there. Re-engaging ourselves in another extended conflict in the Middle East, another nation building project, would be it. We would be done. I'm telling you, that will be our Suez moment, and everybody will look back on that as the exact period of time when the U.S. lost its hegemony. Because we need to be focusing on China, realistically. That needs to be our primary focus. Engaging in another Middle East war is going to do the exact opposite of that. Mr. Clean hasn't done a commercial in a while. It's funny, Jim Smith, Jim totally fake name, or totally real name Smith, totally real person. It's funny that you have I don't even know, emo punk fucking thumbnail of a girl, and you're making fun of me being bald. Jim Smith. Hey, listen, personality, charisma, and your ability to achieve a sexual partner does not come from your hair. And if you think it does, that's because you don't have personality. It is over, man. It's over, man. It's over. Bet on use of nukes by Israel after inevitable Iranian retaliation. I would not say inevitable, right? If Iran gets hit and the strike is not significant enough to deem a response, they will take that as a win. If Iran can avoid a larger war at the current time, that's a win. Israel needs the larger war. Bibi needs the larger war. They're not going to win in southern Lebanon. They are on the clock now, right? This is the situation. Israel's on the clock. Iran needs to survive. Israel needs to escalate. That's where we're at. And in terms of the nukes, I think that if Israel gets a response from the Iranian strike, that response is going to be very significant because of the situation, that like the footing that Iran will find itself in. Right? Iran, if they deem that they need to respond, that next response is going to be the start of an uncontrollable escalation pattern, right? So you are going to have to hit the most sensitive targets as hard as you can immediately, or you are going to receive a lashing in return for not doing a significant amount of damage to the Israeli state. So I think that Israel will use nukes very quickly the second they take some serious damage. They are going to respond with nukes. And I really do think that the U.S. wants Israel to use a tactical nuclear weapon. I think they want Israel to use that weapon after a casus belli of such a significant, they're going to play it up. They're going to be like, so many Israelis got killed. It's the Iranian terror or whatever, this, that, or the other. Then they're going to use it. They're going to say we had no choice. We were, it's part of our doctrine. They crossed the threshold. And now we have entered into a tactical nuclear world. And that's what I think the U.S. wants. I think that the U.S. wants the ability to be able to at least justify the use of tactical nuclear weapons as they have already been used. The taboo is using the first one. After the first one is used, the taboo is probably gone, especially if it's effective. Question, which city do you expect falling first, Pokrovsk or Seversk? Seversk, for sure. Pokrovsk is going to hold for the longest amount of time. They can't lose Pokrovsk, and Pokrovsk is at the absolute extent of the Russian front line, where Seversk is in a very deep salient. Already answered this one. When do you think Israel is attacking Iran? The next couple of days. Yeah, people who are blame the Zionists for U.S. actions are looking for an scapegoat. It's exactly true. And this is something that has been very common. Blame Israel and blame the Zionists for what they're doing, but they go hand in hand with Washington. It is a common goal, a common enemy. That's the situation. They are allies. They are geostrategic allies that require each other absolutely. They are not, it's not a proxy, and it is not a blackmail situation. There might be blackmail going on, but that's not, the U.S. wants Israel to do what Israel is doing. What would the invasion of Iran look like? It would have to involve the United States, and it would look probably something like Desert Storm. I started this day all happy. Turns out I'm a moron. Yeah, well, it's every single one of our existences, my bro. I wake up every day and I think I'm the smartest person on the planet, and by the end of the day, I'm a bumbling, drooling idiot. So it's how it goes. It's just sort of the human experience. Since you said that there is nothing behind Pokrovsk, isn't it the right moment for the Russians to go for a major push to prevent the Ukrainians from building new fortifications? They're not building new fortifications. They're not. This is not a thing that's happening. Guys, fortifications take 6 months to a year to build in peacetime with available manpower, resources, and equipment. Ukraine does not have that. Also, if you look at the area behind Kharkov and Pokrovsk, there's no point in building fortifications there because there's no urban centers to support those. There's no logistics to them. The reason why trenches inside of Bakhmut and Avdiivka and Ugledar held so well was because of the massive logistics and physical infrastructure that was backing up these fortifications, right? It wasn't just because they had trenches and fields, right? It's a little different. Thank you for your question, Lucas. Are the Israelis going to use standoff or fly over to bomb? Because if an F-35 gets shot down over Iran, it's going to be such a mess for the United States. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think part of the strike might actually be in conjunction with the United States. So we could see Tomahawks, but probably mostly air-launched ballistic missiles, I would imagine. I can't foresee the Israelis sending F-35s over Iranian territory, especially with high-level Russian air defense systems such as S-300 in the region. Yeah, you might end up losing an F-35 just sort of by accident. And that would be devastating. What do you think Zelensky's plan for peace is? I don't think he has one. I think his plan for peace is give us all the weapons so that we can force the Russians to come to the negotiating table. Already answered that one. How long until the Russians reach Kupiansk? Depends on how long the Ukrainians try to hold it. I would say this week they should reach Kupiansk because it's not benefiting the Ukrainians, but it's their call. Why do you do incel shaming? Because you should be ashamed if you're an incel. As a human being, as a Homo sapien, as any living mammal, as any multi-celled organism on this planet, your goal is to pass on genetic material, whether that's through asexual reproduction, budding, and however you reach that goal, that's the goal of human beings. And if you are an incel and you are not achieving that goal, you are fundamentally failing the only objective you have since you were born, right? Is to pass on your genetic material. Your legacy is your kids. Now, whether you want to have kids or not, I don't care. And if you're having sex, you're not technically an incel, even if you're not having kids. But I think that bullying is something that has gone by the wayside. And if you look at when school shootings in the United States really started to pick up, it was really in the 1990s when we started all of the stop bullying stuff, early 2000s stop bullying stuff. I think the lack of systemic hard bullying on dorks is what leads to things like school shooting and high levels of transgenderism. I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. That's such a stupid take. But I do think bullying is important, and I do think it teaches you how to overcome adversity. I am pro bullying. Now, I'm not pro like hazing, like don't be throwing people down stairs and trash cans and stuff like that. And don't be bullying online. I bully online because that's the only place I can bully. I'm not in school anymore. But bully in person, the good old way. And then when that bully gets beat up, that's like the biggest event of a young man's life is when he overcomes and beats up that bully. Bullying is good. I was bullied. I was not a bully, by the way. I was bullied my entire life. But I had a 5-year older brother, bullied the shit out of me. All of his friends bullied me. I got beat up all the time. And it just made me tough. Nope. You guys keep asking the same questions. Killing me. Now we have a war in Ukraine and an upcoming war in the Middle East. Any thoughts on the next global conflict? I think we're already in it. I think that you're watching Czechoslovakia, Austria, a lot of not Poland yet. We're not at the Poland moment, but that we're in the run up. Everybody wants a war. Everybody's hunkering down their economies. Everybody's getting ready. Everybody's preparing for what is about to come, right? The Russians know what's coming. They've already been setting up and talking about it for a very long time. The Chinese know what's coming. And it might not be a world war in the exact way you expect it to be. It'll probably be a lot of these proxy exchanges, and a lot of the Russians will take damage from the Ukrainians, and then the United States will take damage from X proxy, and then X proxy will fight X proxy, and that's sort of how I believe this is going to work because we've never had a world war when nukes were available. Now, does that mean that we're never going to see large nuclear powers going at it? Absolutely not. I think it's a very slippery slope, and we could be there immediately if we're not careful. So, yeah. Oh, you hate how you're getting ads during the live stream. God, I'm sorry, guys. I just have like legacy settings. So sometimes it does this thing where it'll change it to YouTube recommends the advertisements. So I'm sorry if you're getting advertisements in the middle of this. That's not my intention. Scott, what does Jordan do when their airspace becomes peak hour traffic for missiles? Do they have a definite preference? Yeah, Israel. They're going to stand behind Israel in this whole thing for sure. For sure. How useful are the fast-made fortifications and trenches compared to the? They're not. They're not. If you don't have a trench line that is fortified with materials, so wood, whatever you're using to stabilize the walls of the trench, especially, one big bomb is just going to move all that earth, and then the trench is completely useless. That's why you're seeing the Russians move a lot faster, is because a lot of these new fortifications are just trenches, like literally tank trenches, like tank ditches. They're not actual fortified infantry trenches that are supposed to protect infantry from, bombs and artillery. If the U.S. Israel did do a ground invasion of Iran, where would they invade from? The Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. would run probably a 2 or 3 week strategic air campaign like they did against Iraq, destroying all of the ballistic missiles, anti-ship missiles, all that sort of stuff, destroying the Iranian Navy, destroying the port facilities, and then as soon as everything's cleared back for 5-10 kilometers, then you go on the ground and you push in. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I don't think the U.S. is in any position to get into another Middle Eastern war, but hey, I think we want the war, we want the conflict, but we don't want to go and get involved. We don't want to have to go in and, shit kick Iran to get the job done. That's not what we want. We want the escalation. We want the chaos. We want to be able to profit and benefit from it, but we don't want to get our own skin in the game. Yeah, but you've also seen, so he says, I've seen NAFTA loons with girlfriends. Yeah, but you've also seen people with Down syndrome that date each other, right? That just because you achieve a sexual partner doesn't mean that you're not a living human incel. You're just dating another incel. But you found each other, so good for you. I'm glad you found happiness. Whichever NAFOs you're talking about that have girlfriends. Do you think I am macho? No, I think macho is a stupid thing to be. I think that I'm highly confident in myself. I think that I'm a very, very big human being. So just physically, I really don't have a lot to worry about most of the time. I'm very extroverted, so I'm always the loudest person. I mean, I've been talking for an hour and 11 minutes to myself, basically. I mean, you guys are here, which is awesome. Don't mean myself, but I'm looking at a camera right now. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at my computer screen. And I would be doing this if there was nobody in here. So no, I don't think I'm macho. I'm just a lot. I'm a lot when it comes to being a person. I have a very profound personality, I think. I don't think I'm macho. I just think that whatever one step below macho is. Because macho seems to me like it's like fake. Like macho, macho man. Celibacy does not equal incel. No, it does not. It does not. Those are not the same things. However, if you are somebody who is super straight edge and really annoying about your celibacy and you brag about it all the time, you are equally as annoying and probably worse in some way than incels. So, no, celibacy is not a bad thing, but just keep it to yourself and be celibate and keep that between you and God or whatever and let it be your thing. See, that's really cool if you're like, no, I don't want to have sex because it's my choice. That's a based way to take it. But then if you're like, no, I don't do it because I'm waiting and I think it's much better to wait. If you like talk about it a lot, then you're just as annoying. And I will bully you. uh Good times, everybody. Good times. I'll do a couple more here and then we'll get out. Do the Russians need to take Izium before surrounding the area before they capture all of the Donbass? I don't know, brother. I don't know. We're getting to the point where predictions are almost pointless. We're getting to the point where the Ukrainians are going to have to make decisions, and based off of their decisions on where they want to retreat, where they want to defend, that's where you're going to see things happen. Izum might be the last. You might see Kharkov get captured before Izum, right? There could be so many there could be so many different paths forward now. I would not expect what we have consistently seen. So when you're talking about, oh, do the Russians probably won't fight for Izum. They'll probably just walk in, right? Because if you look at the map, that means they have to get through the entire Oskal bridgehead, cross the Oskal River, and then go onto the backside and surround Izum. The Ukrainians do not have 6 months of fight in them to delay that, right? That's not the situation anymore. Like I said, you're not going to see a Bakhmut. You're not going to see an Avdiivka. You're not going to see any of these grinding battles anymore. The Ukrainians do not have the resources for it. But the Russians are going to push into Seversk, and you're going to be like, wow, Seversk fell really quick. You're looking at Toretsk. Toretsk is this huge city. It's way bigger than, Avdiivka was. Avdiivka obviously had the fortifications and stuff like that, but Toretsk is falling very quickly, guys. Once the Russians get into Pokrovsk, you're gonna be like, wow, Pokrovsk fell really quickly. That's the situation we're in. We're no longer in these, you know, slogfest, drag out battles. Even the long battles are taking a month. I mean, Seladove is probably one of the longest ongoing battles right now, besides like Chasiv Yar. But I don't really like the Battle of Chasiv Yar as a case study for other city battles because of how spread out it is, and the canal is in there. It's like a whole different world. But if you look at like Toretsk, Avdiivka, even Ugledar, these things are falling very quick without with the Ukrainians trying to fight. So that's really the situation we're in. Peter Bokan. Bokan. Hi. Oh, hi. Remember me talking shit about pockets last stream? That escalated quickly, didn't it? Yes, it did, good sir. Yes, it did. The Ukrainians love to sit in pockets, and now all of those pockets are closing. So, yeah. And like I said, expect more aggressive Ukrainian withdrawals and retreats from places where you're like, wow, the Russians just broke through. Not really. The Ukrainians are just doing what they actually have to do and what they should have been doing for a much longer period of time. Thank you for your question, Peter. All right, I think that's where I'm going to call it. Thank you guys so much. That takes us to 6,000 people in here today. Pretty good for a 2 p.m. my time stream, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want more of my work, go check out those links in the description, Patreon, Telegram, Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys could give me a like and a subscribe, it's free. It takes 2 seconds and it helps me tremendously. Thank you all so much. Make sure you guys take care of you and yours over the next week. And hopefully by the next live stream, I will have my new mic. This will be in a different room and I'll have everything set up for a much better audio experience for you guys. Thank you so much. Take care, be safe, and have a blessed week. Goodbye.